In this lesson, we're going to learn how to interpret the discriminant. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what the discriminant means. We have x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. You might recognize this as what we had done yesterday, which is the quadratic formula. And we plug in all these parts by having our quadratic that's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And that's where we get all these values that you can then plug into this quadratic formula. Well, when we talk about the discriminant is just this piece that is right under this radical sign. It's the b squared minus 4a. I'm sorry, minus 4ac. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to talk about the value of the discriminant. First of all, if the value of the discriminant, when you plug in, you get a number that is greater than 0, meaning that it is a positive number, that means that you are going to have two solutions. And on the graph, what that looks like is that you'd have this parabola that comes around, and your two solutions are the spot at which it crosses the x-axis. Now, if when you simplify the discriminant and you get it equal to 0, that is going to mean that you have one solution. And what that looks like on the graph is that you'd have this parabola that comes on down, and it's the vertex that is crossing the x-axis, giving you that one solution. Now, if when you simplify your discriminant and you end up with a negative number, well then you are not going to have any solutions. That's going to be a no solution. And what that looks like on the graph then is that you've got that graph that kind of comes on around, but it does not touch the x-axis. So that would be considered a no solution. All right, so it says give the discriminant, tell whether the equation has two solutions, one solution, or no solution. All right, so what we're going to do then is we're going to then, let's assign our A, our B, and our C. So A is equal to 3, B is equal to 8, and C is equal to 7. And then remember, our discriminant is the B squared minus 4AC. So now let's plug in the parts that we know and then solve for the ones that we're going to simplify here. We're not solving. So we have B, which is 8, squared minus 4 times 3 times 7. So now I would plug this in my calculator, and this is equal to then 20. I'm sorry, negative 20. All right, now let's talk about that then. So because we have a negative 20, remember we said that if you end up with a negative number when you simplify for the discriminant, that means that there is no solutions. Because it's a negative, there are no solutions. All right, question number 2. First of all, we're going to give the discriminant, and then we're going to determine the number of solutions. So first, let's identify the A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to negative 3. All right, and again, for the discriminant, we've got B squared minus 4 times A times C. All right, let's plug it all in. So we've got B, which is 2, squared, minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. All right, so when we simplify this, we would get then 16. And because we have a positive number, it's greater than 0, this then is going to end up having two solutions. All right, for question number 3, then again, we're going to give the discriminant and then we're going to determine the number of solutions. So our A is equal to 4, our B is equal to 20, and our C is equal to 25. So again, we'll start with that B squared minus 4AC. All right, so let's plug in the 20. So we've got 20 squared minus 4 times, well, A is 4 and C is 25. All right, so when we then put this in our calculators and simplify, we end up getting 0. And remember, if you get 0 for an answer, this is going to have one solution. All right, for this next one, we're going to find the discriminant and then the number of x-intercepts. Remember that the number of x-intercepts is the same thing as the number of solutions. All right, so for this one, we just have to do a little rearranging here. And I need to get that y all by itself. So I'm going to add the 4x. And I have 4x squared plus 4x plus 1, and then we're just going to say and put y is going to be equal to 0. And now we're going to plug it in to the discriminant b squared minus 4ac. And again, we have to then assign our variables. All right. So now we're going to then plug it in. So I have 4 squared minus 4 times 1. And when you simplify that, you will end up with 0. All right. So what that means then is that this has 1. Remember, if you have it equal to 0, you're going to have a 1 solution, which means you're going to have 1 x-intercept. All right, so question number 2, it looks like y is already by itself. So we have negative 210x squared minus 32x plus 90. All right, so b squared minus 4ac. All right, let's identify the a as negative 210. Our b is equal to negative 32. And our c is equal to 90. All right, so let's pay close attention to this here. When I plug in this b is a negative and it's squared. Remember, anytime you assign a variable to a negative number, we're going to have parentheses around this. We're going to have negative 32 squared, because remember, negative 32 squared with parentheses is different than negative 32 without the parentheses. Minus 4 times negative 210 times 90. All right, so now you're going to put that then into your calculator, and once you simplify it, you are going to have 76,624. Now, because this is a positive number, it's greater than 0. We know that this is going to end up having 2 x-intercepts. And again, on the graph, what that looked like was it came on down and it came back up, and your 2 x-intercepts ended up being the 2 solutions. Question number 3. The arc of a baseball hit into the outfield can be modeled by the function y is equal to negative 0.005 x squared plus 1.2x plus 3, where x is the horizontal distance and that the baseball travels, and y is the height of the baseball. It wants to know, does the baseball ever reach a height of 50 feet? So let's take the equation that was given. The y is equal to negative 0.005x squared plus 1.2x plus 3. And now it wants to know then the height of 50 feet. Now remember, we said that the y is the height of the baseball, all right? So we're going to plug in for y. We're going to plug in the 50. So I'm just going to erase this so I don't have to write it again. And I'm just going to plug in the 50 right here. And so what we're going to do then is we need to then get everything to one side of the equation, have it equal to 0. So we're going to minus the 50. And we have negative 0.005x squared plus 1.2x minus 47. That canceled out. And then we're just going to have that equal to 0. So now we're going to see the discriminant, because the discriminant, what it's going to do is it's going to tell us how many solutions there are. And if we end up with a negative number, well, we know that there's not going to be any solutions at all. If we have then one solution or two solutions, that we know that it had reached the height of 50 feet. So we're going to then plug into the b squared minus 4ac. So our b is 1.2 squared minus 4 times a, which is negative 0.005, and then times our c, which is negative 47. All right, so when we then simplify that, we end up getting 0.5. All right, so since we have the 0.5, we have a positive number. So what that means is that there's going to be two solutions here. And so let me show you what that kind of looks like. So you've got this, you've got your ground. We have our 50 feet. And how we end up with two solutions is that you hitting your baseball and it's going above the 50 feet and then it's coming back down. And these two solutions right here, we're not going to solve for these right now. It's just wanting to know, does it actually hit 50 feet? Well, it does. It hits it coming up. It's going to go up further, and then it's going to then come back down. And so the answer to that is yes. All right, our last example, it says, where is the vertex? Above the x-axis, below the x-axis, or on the x-axis? So first of all, we're going to plug this into the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac. And so again, we have a negative b, so we're going to then put that into parentheses. Now, when you simplify this, you are going to have then a negative 244. So what that means then is that it is not going to then have any x. We have no x-intercepts. We know that we don't have that. So if we look at this, we also want to look at this lead coefficient. And the lead coefficient is positive, meaning that it is going to be then, the parabola is going to be opening up. All right? And it's not going to cross it because we had that negative number here. So those no x-axes or x-intercepts. So that means that our parabola is going to be above the x-axis.